All right, as we begin talking about that probability and that third learning target is I can model Punnett squares, to show knowledge of probability and inherited traits. So we're going to slowly start this process. Okay, we won't get through all of these notes today, but as you look on the board, and this is an old picture, I need to update it. Okay, but that is my mom. Okay, and my cousin. Now my cousin there, she's probably like 4 or 5. She's in 6th grade now. Okay, so that tells you how old that picture is. Okay, but as you look at it, okay, as you do take a glance at that, you'll notice, and there are similarities, okay, especially when Marissa was so young and that age, okay, everybody thought she was my little sister. Okay, and I think you guys, in a sense, you've all had some comments or questions. Well, I do resemble my cousin in a way. Okay, or I do resemble my aunt in a way. Okay, or you have a sister that really looks like your aunt or uncle. Okay, so we're all in the same gene pool in that sense. Okay, and you've got those relations. So there was a probability that I got the hair color I did. Now, my hair color resembles my dad's. If you've ever seen a picture, if you looked at any of my pictures outside, okay, my hair color is closer, it resembles my dad. Okay, I do have a lot of my dad's features, but there was a probability for that. Okay, and it wasn't always 50-50. And that's the point that I want to get across to you and that I want to focus to you. Now, there was a 50-50 chance that you were a boy or a girl. Okay, there's pretty much a straight 50-50 chance for that to happen. But the rest of your traits, not all of them were 50-50. Some of you had a 100% chance of having the eye color that you had. Okay, a 100% chance of having, I have crooked pinkies. Okay, some of you had a 100% chance of having straight pinkies. Okay, straight pinkies are a dominant trait. Crooked pinkies are a recessive trait. Okay? If you look at my pinkies, if I put them up, they don't line up at all. Okay? My dad has crooked pinkies. Okay? So we all have these chances. All right. Now, before we get into finding out those probabilities, all right, guys. All right, before we go into finding out those probabilities, we need to establish a couple key things with vocabulary. Okay, so the first thing with vocabulary, all right, that word again, alleles, say it. Alleles, okay? All right, let's define alleles, and it's defined on your paper. Alleles are the different forms of a trait that a gene may have. Okay, so crooked pinky versus straight pinky. Those are the different forms that we can have. You typically get one from each parent. Brayden, can you please shut my door? Okay. Usually there are 2 alleles for a trait. Now there are other traits like hair color, eye color. Some of those have multiple alleles, okay, and they're a little bit more complex. Okay, we're going to keep it 7th grade level. We're going to keep it at simple traits. When you get into the 8th grade and when you get into biology, you're going to be looking at more of these complex traits. Okay, so alleles, you should have both of those blanks filled in for alleles. Okay, now as you look at your genetics with the smile, your alleles were represented by letters. So the capital C and the lowercase c, those were each alleles that you had the option of passing down to your smiley face. Okay, so something to think about, and we're going to keep coming back to our smiley face activity. Okay. All right, now when we talk about different traits, we're going to choose genetic symbols. So we're going to choose some letters. And we pick a letter, and there's some rules that come with picking a letter. And some of you have noticed that rule, whether you realize it or not. Okay, when we talked about tongue rolling yesterday, what letter did I use on the board when I was describing it? I used what, Claire? T. T. Okay, I chose T because tongue rolling is the dominant trait. Okay, so whether we're talking about tongue rolling or non-tongue rolling, whenever we do a Punnett square, we're going to use the letter T. Okay, so the rule is, and in your notes, okay, a letter is picked by an allele. It's usually the first letter of a dominant trait. It's usually the first letter of the dominant trait. So when we talked about pea plants, tall was dominant to short. So we choose the letter T. So in the case of a flower, if purple is dominant to white, what letter am I going to use, P or W? Okay, purple is dominant to white, so let's raise your hand. What letter am I going to use? Purple is dominant to white. Matt, what are we going to use? P, very good. Okay, we're using the dominant letter. Okay. Any questions about that? All right, now in your notes and on your genetics with the smile paper, okay, we wrote 3 rules at the top, and let's just restate those. A dominant allele is represented by what? A capital letter. Very good. Okay, a dominant allele is represented by a capital letter, and a recessive is a lowercase letter. All right, so dominant is the capital letter, a recessive is a lowercase letter. Now, we talked about some exceptions to the rule yesterday. Okay, incomplete dominance or codominance. And when we do have that, okay, what we use is we use both letters. Okay, and anytime you have a Punnett square that has incomplete dominance or codominance, I'll always tell you that. Okay, so it's nothing, it's kind of, you'll have very few like this. Okay, but in this case with our red flower and our white flower, if we did a Punnett square, okay, we would use red is capital R, white is capital W, okay, and then pink would be capital R and capital W. Okay, so those. Okay, but that's an exception to the rule. That'll happen very rarely, at least at the 7th grade level. Okay? All right, so those are our letters. Now, as we look at our letters, okay, we've got 2 other words that we need to define. Genotype and phenotype. So let's talk about genotype. And before we talk about genotype, look at your genetics with a smile paper. Okay, you've got a column labeled genotype. Okay, you've got a column labeled genotype. And what I want you to do is I want you to look at it. Okay, what is a genotype, or what does a genotype appear to be? Raise your hand when you've looked at it and maybe you see a pattern. Okay, Collier, what are you noticing?
It's the mix between the dominant and the recessive.
Okay, it can be a mix between dominant and recessive. It's not always. What kind of things do you have written in that column? Hannah? Letters. Okay, and that's exactly what genotypes are. Now, what letters are they? They're the letters that you flipped, right? Okay, so they're the letters that are passed on from the parent to the offspring in this case. So when we define genotype in our notes, we're going to write a couple things, okay? We're going to say that it's the actual genetic makeup. So that goes in the blank. And I also, and what will help you the most, is the letter combination. Okay, so it's the letter combination that you get. Okay, so you've got a whole list of examples in your genotype column. I'm going to put a couple more up on the board. And this is where I'm going to stress to you, and I've already mentioned it, when we start talking in this letter language, we've got to get used to saying capital T or big T, little t, little t, little t. It's going to sound funny. It's a hard habit to get in, but that's going to confuse you less. If I looked at Macy and I said, write TT down, okay, she should be thinking, okay, does she mean capital T? Does she mean lowercase t? What does Miss Wilson mean? Okay, so it's going to help you if you get into that routine. So some examples, you've got those already on your genetics with the smile paper, but you can add these if you don't want to use the other ones. Big T, big T. Big T, little t. Little t, little t. Big R, big W. Big R, big R. Big W, big W. Anybody got one that they want to add that's not on my examples up on the board? Example of a genotype. Jake. Big F, little f. Nathan. Big A, big A. Devin, one last one.
Big M, little m.
Big M, little m. Okay, so we've got some examples of genotypes. Now, genotypes can be classified into two categories. Okay, two categories they can be classified in. The first category they can be classified in is what we call purebred, okay, or homozygous, and you need to write both of those words in your notes. Okay, purebred, homozygous. Okay, it's right under where we said examples. It says a blank, so a purebred or homozygous genotype occurs when both of the alleles are the same. You still have the highlighters at your desk. I would either highlight or put in a box that word same. Okay, if you can remember purebred, homozygous means same, you'll be in good shape. All right. The key is they are the same type of letters. So big T, big T. Okay. Little t, little t. Are they the same? Yes, it doesn't matter. So here are your examples. Make sure you're writing or listing some examples down. Big J, big J. Okay, little w, little w. They're all the same. They're purebred. They're homozygous. And you're going to have to recognize both of those words. Those are two key vocabulary words that will help you. Somebody give me an example of homozygous. One that's not up there. Evan, go. Big E, big E. Good. One more person. Claire, go. Little c, little c. Good. All right. Now, the other type of genotype that we have, okay, is called a hybrid or heterozygous. And each allele is different. Not only would I write it, but I would highlight it. Okay? Hybrid, heterozygous. Now, you're going to make some connections to these words, hetero and homo. Okay? In science context, if you think homogeneous, that means a mixture that's the same throughout. Okay? Key word, homozygous is when both alleles are the same. Okay? Heterozygous or a heterogeneous mixture is when the mixture is different throughout. Heterozygous in this case means different. Okay, now I see some of you grinning at me and smiling at me because you know homo and hetero mean same and different. Okay, you've probably heard it used inappropriately. Okay, with that being said, if you're shaking your head or you're smiling at me, okay, whether you've used it inappropriately or if you've heard somebody use it inappropriately, okay, hopefully they've been using it in the right context where homo means same, homozygous means same, and heterozygous means different, or hetero meaning different. Okay, so our examples of hetero. Okay, big T, little t. You notice they are different. Big R, big W. All right, somebody else give me a heterozygous genotype. Jake, go. Big R, little w. Collier.
Big B, little b.
Big B, little b. All right. All right. Evan, what's your question?
But the R and the W are both capital.
That's an incomplete dominance. Remember we talked about incomplete and when we can have two that are dominant? Okay. All right. Last word we're going to talk about before we get a little bit of practice in is phenotype. Look at your genetics with the smile paper. You've got a column that's represented by phenotype. Okay, phenotype, what kind of things do you have listed there? What kind of things do you have listed in phenotype? Hannah? What it looks like. Good. Hannah, that tells me you wrote what you were supposed to on your genetics with the smile paper. Okay? All right. Phenotype is what it looks like. So whether it was a circle face, star eyes, it's the visible characteristics. Okay? It's what it looks like. So those couple things I want you to write. Okay? Phenotype is the visible characteristics. It's what it looks like. Okay? Now we talked about with our genetics, with the smile activity, Big C, what kind of face did Big C have? Anna?
Circle.
A circle face. Okay, Big C, little c. It's a different genotype, right? Okay, but it still looks like a circle. Okay, so you're going to have some different genotypes that have the same phenotype, and that's what that last statement points out in your notes. Okay, so this is where we're going to call it kind of quits for these notes, and we're going to get some practice in. Okay, so what I need somebody to pass out the SpongeBob worksheets for me. Okay, keep your notes out. All right, Haley, pass them out quickly for me. Okay, all right, keep your notes handy. You can go ahead and take this opportunity to put your genetics with a smile back in your lab section of your binder. Okay, go ahead and keep your notes handy. All right, we have a short time left before lunch. Okay, so what I need from you is I need full focus here so we can go over number 1, 2, and 3 together. And we're going to just glance over them. Okay, you will be responsible for completing 1, 2, and 3. Okay, all right, so as we look at number 1, for each, it says for each genotype below, indicate whether it is a heterozygous or homozygous. So when we look at that, okay, big T, are they the same or are they different? Okay, big T, Taylor, are they the same or different? Same. Okay, so is that heterozygous or homozygous? Homozygous, very good. So we're going to write an HO in there. Okay, so that's homozygous. All right, big D, little d. They're different, so is that homozygous or heterozygous? Heterozygous. So we've got HE.
What
All right.
do you mean by genotypes?
All right. What about little f? Same or different?
Different.
Little f is the same, so is it heterozygous or homozygous? Okay. Some of you are missing out on an opportunity to be getting a head start on this. Okay. Some of you have already got them finished. Okay. All right. Now, as you go through down to this part, where it says which of the genotypes in number 1 would be considered purebred. Okay, purebred, does it mean same or different? Same. So let's go through real quick. Let me hear ya. Which ones are same?
TT.
Oh, I'm hearing TT. Big T. Little f. Big D, I heard. Little. Yeah, you gotta list all of them. Little t. Big B. Little b's already up there, yes. Little d. and big F, big F. Do I got them all? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. All right. Which of the genotypes in number 1 would be hybrids? All right, so that means different. Big D, little d. What? Big B, little b. I heard big T, little t. And big F, little f. Good. All right. Number 2. All right. Determine the phenotype for each genotype. So yellow body color is dominant to blue. So big Y, big Y. What would it look like? Yellow. All right. What about big Y, little y? Yellow. Thank you for not saying green. Okay. It's dominant over blue. So then little y is yellow or blue? Blue, because it's the recessive, because it's got lowercase letters. All right, let's jump down to number 3, and then we'll go to lunch. Okay, a tall head is dominant to a short head. So we want to know what the genotypes would be. So we're doing the opposite of what we did in number 2. So a tall head, what would our genotypes be? Okay, Devin, what?
Big T, or big T, little t.
Very good. Big T, and big T, little t. Both of those would be tall. So then what would short be? Hannah, what would short be?
Little t, little t.
Little t, little t. You got to say it with confidence, Hannah.
I didn't know if it was right or not.
Yeah, confidence. All right. Now, your job for homework, and most of you are almost already there, or if not there, okay? You need to make sure all of 1, 2, and 3 are complete, okay?